Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you again. Welcome to our grammar English class. This is teacher Faithy, and I'm on charge of intermediate 2. So today in our class, we are going to make a little review about the last topic, about the modal verbs, and a little bit of present perfect. So if you are ready, let's start. Well, we are going to make a little review about the 6 more common modals. So my first question for you is, do you remember what a modal verb is? Last week, we checked some modal verbs like have to, must, could, the modal don't have to, should, and the negative form of mustn't. So start trying to remember what a modal verb. As we see in the last class, a modal verb gives us some extra information. Yeah, some extra information about the verbs. And it gives us too how the speaker feels or the attitude that the speaker has when he's talking about. What does that mean, teacher Faithy? Well, in simple words, a modal verb gives us an extra information about the verbs. For example, if it is can, it expresses ability. So give us the information about it. Example, if I say I can, but no more information, it doesn't have coherence. But if I say I can swim, now you understand. I am saying that I have the ability to swim. So the modal verb gives us or express what the speaker refers. Maybe an ability, maybe an obligation, or maybe it's a suggestion or an advice, and so on. So the modal verbs we learned in the last class has some special rules. Do you remember what are the rules? Well, try to remember. The number 1, we said that the modal verbs never use letter S or ES in the third person in present simple, even in any tenses, no rules with them. The second rule, it says that we don't put the infinitive to before the next verb. So in my example, you say, I should go now. It's not correct to say, I should to go now. So remember, the expression to, it is not necessary in the modal verbs. We put the modal plus the other verb in simple form. The third rule, when we make negatives, we don't use auxiliary. Very careful. With these modal verbs, we don't use auxiliaries to make the negatives. We only put the expression not next to the modal. For example, you say can't, or mustn't, or shouldn't. So, in my example, you say, you can smoke in here. It is not correct to say, you can smoke in here. It's not possible. Okay, what about my next row? Well, when we use modal verbs in the questions, careful, in the questions, we make an inversion. So, the subject and the modal verb make a switch. So, look at my example. Can I come in? We don't say I can come in. Or, do I come in? Forgot it. It's not possible. So remember, no auxiliary verb in question. Only we make an inversion. Okay? Well, however, there is an exception. There are some modal verbs that they are called semi-modal. The most popular is have to or has to. This modal is a semi-modal, and it is totally different of the rest of the modals. Remember, have to or has to is different from the rest of the modals. Why, teacher Faithy? Pay attention. Because have to use an auxiliary to make negatives and questions. Yes, it uses an auxiliary. It's the only one that uses an auxiliary. So, if it is in present and you have to make the negative or the question, what is the auxiliary? You're going to use do or that. It depends of the subject. But if it is in past, you are going to use did or have or has plus past participle in present perfect and so on. It depends of the tense. So have to is the modal verb, but it is going to be with an auxiliary. It depends of the tenses. In my example, in the picture, in present, you use I have to, but with the third person, you say he has to. Example, on the left, he has to be at the office. On the right, you have to deliver letters. And about, she has to come home. So we have this structure. Subject plus have or has to, the verb in infinitive form or simple form, plus the complement. But if it is negative, trucha, if it is negative, we use the auxiliary with this semi-modal. Subject don't have to or doesn't have to, the verb in infinitive form or simple form, and the complement. And if it is the question, do or does, plus the expression have to, plus the verb in simple form, plus the complement. So remember, if it is in past, now it is done, it is didn't. Or if it is in future, it could be will, and so on. Okay? So make a recapitulation. Only have to, has to, is a semi-modal and is the only one that uses an auxiliary. The only one, remember, is the exception. Okay? Well, now we're going to move on to the different explanations and the meanings. And remember, a modal verb can have one or more meanings. It depends on the context. So remember that different meanings for one modal verb. Start. The first one we are going to check is the modal verb about obligation. Yes, the last class we learned that the expression have to or has to represent an obligation, but the clue is that obligation is from a law or a rule. It's not your decision, there is no option, so you have to obey. Got it? Like the example, in the school, you have to use a uniform because it's part of the rules in the school. So, no choices for you, you have to obey it. Okay? Well, what about the next? In the next modal verb, we have, very careful, we have the expression have to, but now is negative. Trucha, have to or has to now is negative. When you make the negative of this modal verb, the meaning totally change. Now, it means the opposite. It means absence of obligation, a lack of necessity. So, it is not necessary to do something. If you want to do it, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. For example, in my picture, you say, Susan doesn't have to go to school today. It's Saturday. Or on the right, I don't have to work if I am rich. Okay? So, we are going to put clear. Have to in positive means an obligation from laws or rules. But have to or has to negative, totally different. Now it means absent of obligation. It is not necessary. It's clear for you? Positive, an obligation from another person. Negative, the lack of necessity. Well, we are going to move on to the third. When we express an advice or a suggestion, when you think something is good for somebody else, you say, well, I think you should, for example, the doctor. If I have the diarrhea, the doctor says, you should get some Pepto-Bismol. Or you shouldn't drink and drive. Or the exam is near, you should study English. They are advices or suggestions. Yes, we have three, remember. Now, we move to the number 4. When we use the expression must in positive, it expresses a moral, personal obligation. So that obligation comes inside of the speaker. It's my conscious. I say it's my personal opinion, and I think it's necessary. I decide it. Okay? And must is used to express a strong suggestion. The level is different. In should, you give a suggestion, an advice, but must is higher than should when you express a suggestion. Look at my example. The first is my moral and strong obligation. I decide that is necessary, and I say, I must study very hard to pass my English exam. This is a decision that comes from my inside, my conscience. Okay? And when it is a strong suggestion, look at the example. I don't care what you do during the night. You must be in the office at 9 o'clock sharp. In this case, it's a strong suggestion. The boss is saying that Batman has to be there on time for the work. Now, move on to the 5. When we express a prohibition, we use mustn't. It means that something is not allowed for us. It's prohibited. Careful. Negative express a prohibition. However, in positive, it expresses a moral decision or a strong suggestion. You notice, most in positive, suggestion or moral conscious decision. But in negative, totally change. In negative, must means totally prohibited. Like my example. You mustn't smoke in here. It's forbidden. Look at that sign. Or you can take photographs in this museum. So, mustn't negative means prohibited. Now, we're going to move to the difference between have to and must. Why, Faithy? Because as we have learned until now, have to is an obligation, must to is an obligation. But what's the difference? Take it easy. Easy. Have to, the obligation is from another person. It's outside. Maybe a law, maybe a rule. It's not your decision. No choices for you. You have to obey. However, must is your personal decision. You decide because it's a moral intention that you say, yes, I have to do it. I must do it, sorry. And sometimes it's expressed as a strong suggestion. Okay? Vale. We continue. Now, we're going to move on to the next modal, and this is the last one. When we're talking about at least 3 different meanings, you express an ability, and the modal verb is can. Like when you say, I can sing very well. Or when you express inability, so the opposite. I can't speak English fluently. Or when you express a request. Please, can you open the window? Or another meaning, when you express a possibility. When you say, he can call you later. Okay, now, a little review of all of them. Can express at least 3 things. Ability, request, probability. Must in positive express a personal obligation, my moral decision. But mustn't in negative express a prohibition. Okay, what about could? Could is in past, and we usually use for request. Like, could you bring me a little piece of chocolate cake, please? Now, move on to the expression have to or have to. This express external obligation that comes from a rule or a law. Is not your decision. No choices. You have to obey. But if it is negative, don't or doesn't have to, the meaning totally change. Now it expresses no necessity. It is not necessary. If you want to do it, do it. If not, it is not necessary. And finally, we have should or shouldn't to express suggestions or advice. I hope now the modal verbs are clearer for you. We're going to move on and then to the next part. Is a little bit about the present perfect. Do you remember the uses? Well, in the 2 weeks before, we checked that the present perfect, the first use is to express that an action that happened in the past, but whose results are obvious in present. Like the example, he has watched the car. It happened in the past, and the result, according with the picture, now in the present is obvious. It was dirty, now it's clean. So he has watched the car. What about the second use? We said that we express an action that has just finished. Remember that just means something that is just a little bit before that happened. Example, it says, he has just had lunch. Recently it happened. Okay, what about the use of three? Well, We use present perfect to express actions that started in the past and hasn't finished yet. Remember my example? We said that they have lived in this house for 15 years, or they have lived here since 2000. When you express actions that started in the past and hasn't finished, you have two words: for plus a period of time, or since plus the starting point when start the action. Okay, what about the for use of present perfect? We use the present perfect to express my experience in my life. Like the example, have you ever traveled by plane? So when we talk about experience, we use the expression like ever, or if it is negative, never. And finally, the use number 5. We use the present perfect to express that an action happened, but we never say when. Careful with this. When we use the present perfect, is because we don't say when happened the action. It doesn't matter when happened. Okay? When is not important in the present perfect. I'm going to repeat. When happened the action, don't care in present perfect. Look at the difference. In present perfect, you say, I have studied 3 sections until now. When? It doesn't matter. But if it is past simple, the action is complete, and in a specific time, I say when happened, the difference. I studied 3 sections last night. So be careful. If you are going to say when happened, obviously it's past simple. Don't say when happened, present perfect. I have some time expressions, and remember, yesterday, last week, the day before yesterday, 3 years ago, all these expressions are from past simple because you are telling me that the action happened in a specific time. However, remember, present perfect, it doesn't matter when happened. The important is the activity that you have done. Okay? Well, finally, in a recapitulation, just, already, yet. We use just when an action happened recently. Example, I have just eaten breakfast. Already, we use already when an action happens sooner than expected. Example, I have already finished page 20. Careful, just and already we use for positive sentence and before the main verb. Look at, we have just before eaten. We have already before finished. So just already before the main verb. However, look at the little difference with yet. We use yet when we think an action will happen soon. I haven't eaten lunch yet. Now, yet, if you notice, is at the end of the sentence. At the end of the sentence. And it is for negative and question. Okay? So be clear. One more time. Just already positive sentence and before the main verb, and yet in negative sentences and in questions. And we put it at the end of the sentence. Well, that was all about our review. I hope now all the topics are clear for you. But even so, if you continue having some doubts or questions, please feel free to ask me, drop me a line on the platform, and I will deliver you the answer. I will pay attention whatever questions or doubts you have about it. Thank you for watching. It was my pleasure to work with you. See you for the next class. Bye-bye.